Next on Imagenes, the Jewish Hispanic community. Saludos, welcome to Imagenes. I'm Miguel Perez. They come from all over Latin America and they are proud to be Latinos. They may be American citizens, but they recognize another homeland that is not Colombia, Argentina, Cuba, Chile, Peru, or any other country south of the border. Their other homeland is Israel. They are members of New Jersey's large Jewish Hispanic community. When most Americans think of Latinos, they don't stop to consider that they may also be Jewish. But that stereotype is also prevalent among many Latinos who can accept that you can be Hispanic, Jewish, and proud of both cultures. When Israel's achievements and pains are felt in the Jewish American community, they are also felt in the Hispanic community. And on today's program, we have a panel of Hispanic Jews who are here to discuss their people's history of persecution, migration from Latin America, and ties to Israel. Esteban Kigoman from Argentina owns a plumbing supply business in Patterson and was recently named Hispanic Businessman of the Year by the statewide Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. Wilson David Bernal from Colombia is a legal assistant and Inglewood civic leader. He is the key organizer of the annual Colombian Independence Day Festival in Inglewood. Claudio Kupchik from Argentina is the rabbi at the Sons of Israel Synagogue in Leonia. Gentlemen, welcome to the program. It's a pleasure having you here.
Thank you.
I recently wrote a story about Hispanic Jewish community in New Jersey, and I was struck by the answers. I interviewed two of you for that column, and I was struck by some of the answers that you gave me because as a Hispanic, I thought I knew enough about the Hispanic Jewish community, and I was surprised that I didn't. And one of the things that really struck me was when I asked you, well, you know, you're American citizens, you have a second homeland being Latinos. We all do, all Latinos consider Cuba, Argentina, wherever we come from, our second homeland. And then I said, well, you also have, as Jewish people, you also have a third homeland. And you stopped me right there and you said, no, wait a minute. Our second homeland is Israel. Mr. Kigoman, tell me about that.
Well, most definitely, I consider Israel to be the homeland of every Jew, no matter where they were born. In my case, especially being from Argentina, I cannot proudly say that I'm a proud Argentinian Jew due to the history of Argentina with Jews, a country that has accepted more Nazi refugees than any other country in the world, I believe. At one time, over 70,000 Nazis went to Argentina, and it's I cannot feel comfortable in a country like that. So not necessarily because of that do I claim Israel to be my homeland, but as I stated before, I believe that's the homeland of every Jew, no matter where they were born. So. And
you were born in Argentina and you're an American citizen?
That is correct.
Mm-hmm. You also told me the same thing, Wilson, when I spoke to you, and you said, wait a minute, no, I even served in the Israeli army.
Yes, Miguel, I am a volunteer for Israeli army, and I am feel very, very proud about my roots, my ancestors. And some people, you know, in my community, like I said before, they say, oh, how come you're a Colombian Jew? I said, no, wait a minute, I am a Jew from Colombia. Mm-hmm. It makes a lot of difference. And the question I asked me, how do you can feel so proud about your country and being also a proud Colombian and American? And, you know, it's not easy for me to describe, but I just can put an example. The love that I have for my mother, the love that I feel for my wife, the love that I feel for my daughter. The three loves very special in my life, but they are different. They are there.
And there's room inside of you for all of it.
That's correct. That's correct.
And there's also room for Argentina. I have to disagree with Esteban in this sense, because probably one of the reasons is that I have been in the US for less time, only for 6 years. But even though it's true that Argentina did receive some Nazi people, and that there is still today, and there was, of course, anti-Semitism in Argentina, also Argentina was a land in which Jews came in large numbers and were able to establish institutions and grow and contribute. I can't ever forget my grandfather. Always had in his home, may he rest in peace, alava shalom, he always had an Argentinian flag. We're together with the family photographs, and we weren't very patriotic. So I said, oh, maybe we can put it in another place. He said, no, 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 I want the flag to be here, because when I came to this country, and they came from Russia, after hiding for a few years in Poland, where every night the corrupt police will come and ask for bribes, not to denounce them and not to deport them from Poland. And they came, and they were in Argentina, and they came to their first home in Argentina, and there, my grandfather asked his father, what's happening? The policemen don't come here to ask for money? No, no. His father said, here we are okay. No, there's no problem here. And according to the story, he went and kissed the ground. So he felt very deeply about Argentina and all the opportunities that they had there. And it is true that there was anti-Semitism and difficulties, but there's also ties to Argentina, so I feel.
But there's also anti-Semitic sentiments all over Latin America. I mean, a lot of Hispanic Jews came here because they didn't feel comfortable being Jews in Colombia, weren't they not?
That's correct. But basically, I believe it's because of the teachings of the church in the past. Today, the attitude has changed a lot. But that takes so many. I mean, if I think about 2,000 years of this policy prior to 1960, that will take quite a few years before the other groups understand what the changes have been in the church.
One of the things that I want to clarify in the very beginning of our show here is that Jewish people are not a race. And it's something that confuses a lot of people, because sometimes they think of Hispanics as being a race, and we're not a race either. Hispanics come in all colors and in all religions. And we should clarify the same thing applies to the Jewish community. It is a religion.
I don't necessarily agree with that statement. What my father, for example, is an atheist, does not believe in God, yet he's as proud of a Jew as you'll find. I mean, he loves Israel, extremely supportive of any Jewish cause.
So you would say being Jewish is part of a culture, or is it part of a race?
I think it's both. Don't forget that we are guided sort of by two laws. One, which is the Roman law, and the British law, which is they would tell us what we should believe or what we should do. And then you have the British law, which tells us society dictates the law. The world has always thought of us as a race, la raza judía, the Jewish race. Therefore, in society's law, we are a race. We are considered a race.
But is that accurate?
I don't believe so. The issue is that what Judaism is and what Jews are, it's a very complex question because of the complex history of the Jewish people. So even though we can't say it's a religion because they're atheist Jews, there are very strong religious elements. And even when we can't say it's a race because they're black Jews and they're Oriental Asian Jews, the Jews have also some common traits, even though they are very different in very different people. So it's very difficult how to define. Probably the best definition is to say that Jews are a people with cultural, religious, and ancestry elements in common. But in different people, there are different elements that appear or not.
Basically, we're a civilization.
Now, the history of Jewish people in Latin America, that's something I really want to deal with, because you came in different waves. You are a descendant of Sephardic Jews.
That's correct.
Who probably came with Columbus during the time of the Inquisition, your ancestors.
Well, it's very interesting, especially for me, to learn that the first, according to the history, the first physician who came from Europe to the New World, who was the physician of the Christopher Columbus, was Jose Bernal, who was a physician in pharmaceutical, which is my last name. And one of the historians who mentioned very often on the history of the conquest is Bernal Díaz del Castillo, who's the guy who wrote most of the history about what was going on when Columbus was in the Dominican Republic, in Cuba, in Mexico. So, that's interesting, especially because the another point is most of the people associate the idea of Jews with the blonde and tall fellow, and when they see people like me and with my name, You know, my name don't sound Jewish for many people.
Mm-hmm. Rabbi, your ancestors come from where?
From Eastern Europe. They came to Argentina mostly in the 20s after the Russian Revolution from Ukraine, even though I had a grandmother that came in an earlier wave at the end of the last century. She was born actually in Argentina. So.
And yours are from Poland?
No, from Russia also. Oh. And as a matter of fact, I also have a grandfather who was born in Argentina.
Mm-hmm.
That's another stereotype. Most Jewish people, when they talk to us, tend to assume that Argentinian Jews come from Sephardic ancestry, but it's not true. We are also from Eastern European origin.
I would say mostly, which I know are Ashkenazi more than Sephardic.
Yeah. In Argentina, yeah, there is, I would say, a lot more Ashkenazis than they are Sephardic Jews.
In the same case for Colombia. Mainly the organizations, the congregations in Cali especially are the mostly Ashkenazi Jews.
And how close is the Hispanic Jewish community in New Jersey and New York? Do you get together? Do you know each other? Or do you actually belong to different synagogues and hardly ever see each other?
Basically, we are not very united yet. We are trying to get together because we are discovering ourselves here in Bergen County. I mean, when I came here, nobody knew me, and I start meeting people, and when I go to my temple, they say, oh, we have a lady who's from Morocco, and I went to my congregation, they said, the gentleman is from Spain, the gentleman is from Mexico. That's what the time I start, meeting my people, basically the same way that I met my good friend Esteban, When I was a civic leader in Patterson, I never met Esteban before, and I've been in Paris a lot of times. Mm-hmm. I remember once they asked me that they want to have a rabbi for a celebration. I think it was in a radio program when the invasion of Lebanon. I went calling everywhere to find a rabbi who speaks Spanish. And calling the area, metropolitan area, New York, Miami. Finally, I was able to get a rabbi from Washington State to participate in the program by phone.
But now you know where to find
one. Yes, that wouldn't be a problem anymore because we have a group of Latin American rabbis and we get together monthly. And we
in
are
New York, right?
In New York, yes. Yeah. And we are 11 in the greater metro area, including Connecticut and including Albany.
11 Latin American rabbis. Yes. And what countries are they from?
Mostly Argentinian, and mostly come from my school, which is the Seminario Rabínico Latinoamericano, which my teacher, Marshall Mayer, may he rest in peace, Alava Shalom, founded like 30 years ago. And we have a few that have studied here in the US, and we have one woman from Brazil in this group, and we have quite a nice group, and we have started meeting together, and we're going to be more and more active.
Just like the Jewish American community, I'm sure the Hispanic Jewish community also is divided or debating the peace process in Israel right now. You are very much concerned about what is going on in Israel. I know from two of you that I interviewed before, you have very strong feelings about it. When I spoke to you, Mr. Kigelman, you were all behind the peace process. You said that you had to give peace a chance and that land for peace was an option you were willing to take. When I spoke to you, Wilson Bernal, you told me that you were not too sure, that the movement was moving along too fast to know if that will work out. I don't see the guarantees for the security of Israel very clear. And what I believe is no matter what the good intentions of the government, after we give up the land, there's nothing we can do, to be honest, to recover the land. I mean, we were out of our land for 2,000 years, and the experience has been good enough to know that we cannot depend on acts of good faith. Mr. Kigelman.
It's pretty hard to really express your feelings. I mean, no Jew, I believe, would like to give land back when it was fought, and children, actually there were children, the soldiers that died over the land. But there's 2 points about it. One, if it would bring peace to the area, I'm for that. And the other important part about that I constantly hear in America, American Jews debating the land situation in Israel, is that we are not the owners of Israel. Every Jew belongs in Israel, but because we send money from here, it does not give us the right to dictate what they should do over there. I don't have a son or a daughter in the army or a relative that could get killed. So it's very easy for me to give my opinion and say, no, they should, yes, they should. The people in Israel are the ones who should make that decision. We should be supportive of whatever decisions they make.
And yet both of you went together to a memorial service for Isaac Rabin when he was killed. Regardless of what he was doing with the peace process, you were united in mourning his death.
Right, which was one of the saddest moments, I believe, in Jewish history, when a Jew kills a Jew because of his beliefs. That is very, very sad, and it shows the times how Jews are changing their way of thinking towards each other also.
Rabbi, where do you stand on the peace process?
Well, it's not only that it's difficult to give back land that has been fought for in defense of your own life, and that's very difficult for Israelis, but also that land is considered sacred by the Bible, and it's kind of paradoxical that a few places that the Bible attests that have been bought by Abraham and his children from the Canaanites are precisely the ones that are being discussed, the West Bank, Yehuda v'Shomron, as it is called in Hebrew. However, there's a value in Jewish life which is even higher than land, which is life. Life is sacred according to our belief, and if a peace process is going to foster the possibility of saving lives, that takes precedence over everything else. So we should, I think, support the peace process because of that, because life is the most important value. There's another thing, which is that things have changed to a point that we can't even recognize reality anymore. 2 years ago, to have dreamt that the king of Jordan will be in Jerusalem eulogizing the prime minister, saying that the prime minister of Israel was his brother and a hero, would have been impossible.
Yeah.
And reality has changed. It's difficult to adjust ourselves to this change in reality, but there are wonderful things happening, and let's hope that the memory of Rabin will inspire all the sides to get together and to make peace, and a lasting peace that benefits everybody.
How do you feel about the memory of Rabin contributing to the peace process?
I have too much respect for the man, for the hero, for the leader. And that's in the sense that I respect what he was doing, because he, like nobody else, he passed his life defending the country. He was a leader during all these years. He knew about the suffering and the pain of not only he like a leader, but the family, the mothers and children dying for Israel. So I agree and I support it, and I never agree on violence to obtain the goals. My feelings are based on also the options for Israel in the future. What happens if that doesn't work? What can we do? Too late, too sorry. I mean, we make a mistake, and we have to live with that.
I remember the story, Mr. Keegan, when you told me about when you discovered or learned from the news that the prime minister had been assassinated. You were telling me that you had just received an award that was the height of your career, and as a Hispanic as well, because the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce had just recognized you as Businessman of the Year. Then you went to your hotel room and you put on the news and you heard that Isaac Rabin had been assassinated. Tell me how you felt, first as a Hispanic receiving this award and later as a Jew.
First, let me clarify that even though I've stated something about Argentina before, I am extremely proud Latino in this community. It was sad, as I said before, as a Jew, it was more than a family member being killed. It was a very happy moment because I have received the award. I didn't know what to do or how to handle the situation because I had Rabbi Michael Unger, who I was waiting at 6 o'clock because it was Shabbat, and I knew he would not answer his phone. So I waited until 6:01 to call the rabbi. The rabbi was supposed to go to the convention to give the invocation, and I had to call him because I knew he was not aware of the news. And it was a very sad situation. The rabbi did show up, but the convention gave the invocation and left. But it was a very up and down situation.
And a very emotional situation that you went through.
Very, yeah.
The highs and the lows all within a half hour.
That is correct.
I had a similar experience. That same evening, my wife was installed at her congregation. She's a rabbi, and she was installed at her congregation in Teaneck, Betham. And
she Hispanic also?
No, she's sorry. She was born in the U.S.
Okay.
So she's learning though.
Okay.
So she was installed as a rabbi that evening, and I got there, and we were preparing everything for the ceremony. And she says to me, "You know, did you hear that Rabin was assassinated?" And I said, "You are joking." And it was very important for us that we were together at that time, and there was a wonderful ray of hope of building new community at the same time that we were mourning the death of a hero.
Let me get back to the Jewish Hispanic community in New Jersey. I understand that there are stereotypes that, and I said in the introduction that most Americans don't think of a Latino and associate him with being a Jew. But Mr. Kegelman, you were telling me that it's a problem also convincing other Latinos that they ask you, well, what do you mean? You're Argentinian and you're Jewish? Make up your mind. As if you had to.
That is correct. They would ask, on Saturday or Friday night, I saw you going to the synagogue. He says, "What are you doing over there?" He says, "Well, I'm Jewish." "I thought you told me you were from Argentina. You're Spanish. How could you be?" No, I could be born anywhere in the world and I would still be a Jew. I said, "I just happen to be born in Argentina. It makes me a Latino, and I am a Jew." And it's very, very hard to, especially, I would say in Central and the Caribbean, for them to understand that you could be both. It's very, very hard.
Do you also run into this problem of Latinos not understanding?
Yes, Miguel, very, very often, and I think in my case more than even in the case of Esteban. The reason is the Jewish community in Colombia is very small, number one. Number two, our people have the idea that Jewish, like I said before, is a tall man, blue eyes, and this, and my lifestyle don't work. I mean, when they said, I am Colombian and my name is Bernal, most of the Sephardim, which have the Spanish names, people, they don't make sense to them. And it's when I say, okay, you know, I was born in Colombia, but this is Israel, you know. Sometimes I say, I am here and my heart is in Jerusalem. I am in the West and my mind is in the East. So this guy is, I don't understand what your feelings are. You have to decide where you want to be.
And as a rabbi, are you accepted by the Jewish American community that has an Argentinian for a rabbi? How do you deal with that?
Well, they have a problem with my accent, but no, it's really fine. I've never run into any problems for that. On contrary, if anything, people have been very curious and have asked a lot, and I think that helped to dispel some stereotypes also among them. It's difficult for the Hispanic people, and even in Argentina, when I was still living there, it's difficult to harmonize all these elements together, Jewish, but also in Argentina, here, there. And to the point in Argentina, Jewish people are called Rusos. They called us Russians, because most of the Argentinian Jewry came from Russia. So Russo, that's the way, despectively sometimes, like the word Kai could be used in the American culture. So it's interesting that it's a difficult thing for a lot of people to put together, and hopefully we are dispelling stereotypes here.
That's what we're here for, but at the same time, Jewish people traditionally have been victims of discrimination. So have Latinos in this country been victims of discrimination. Because of these two things that I just mentioned, do you suffer sometimes from double discrimination? You turn around this way and you're discriminated for being Jewish. You turn this other way and you may be discriminated for being Hispanic, Mr. Kegelman?
Most definitely, and in our case, it's somewhat sad. If you're sensitive, it really hurts, because being that Spanish people do not know that we are Jewish or can understand that we could be Jewish, they would say very nasty things about Jews, not knowing that I'm Jewish.
I see.
By the same token, you also have a lot of American racists who believe or look at me and figure that here's a Jewish guy, definitely cannot be Spanish, so would say very negative things about the Spanish community. And it's very difficult, so I always hear them out. I've learned not to fight it, but try to educate the people as we go along.
That's what I want to ask you was, how do you deal with it? What do you say to them? Do you say anything at all? Do you just let it go by, or?
I sort of dissect whatever statement they make and ask them if, when they tell you that whether Jews are cheap or whatever statement they make, I bring them around as to whether they had a personal experience or they just heard that. 90% is because they just heard that Jews are whatever stereotype they may be. It's not that people have a personal experience with a Jew that made them come to that conclusion.
But it's
My experience is even more difficult, Miguel, in the sense that for one reason, we like Jews, as you know, people have the conception and idea of what Jews are, and on top of that, I'm Colombian, which you know, our reputation.
You
So
get
I
a
had to be-
reputation for the drug trafficking and all that, and
That's
they assume
correct.
all kinds of things about all Colombians, that
Yeah,
way, just like
that's
they may
right.
assume also
Yeah,
some
so,
things about Jewish people.
Yeah, I remember we have, I belong to a group who deals with the relationship between Christian and Jews, and one priest to me, and I have some respect for you because you are in the hot spot all the way, no matter what, you are in the hot spot.
With that, we have to go. I thank you very much for being here. I hope we
you.
dispel some stereotypes about the Jewish Hispanic community. Thank you for being with us. I'm Miguel Perez, and I'll see you next week on another edition of Imagenes. Hasta pronto.